If you've ever gone to a shop and picked up a board, one of the first things you may have noticed is the spec sheet on the back. What this tells you is what the board rides like, how it feels, what technology is in the board, and what terrain this board is designed to ride. You'll also notice there is a list of numbers and measurements on certain specifications. At first glance, all this information may be confusing. So in this video, I'm going to be explaining what each of these specifications mean and how it will change the ride of the snowboard. If you're new here, this is Search of Snowboarding, where we share the stoke through our videos. We're also working on growing this online community of shredders, so if you want to join along, hit that subscribe button. Now, when you first look at the measurements on the spec sheet, one of the first things you'll notice is the list of sizes that this board comes in. This is not only important because you can see all of the sizes that this model is made in, but you can also see if there is an option for a wide specific in a certain size. The next spec that goes hand in hand with the size is the suggested rider weight. And this is really important because with this and the size of the snowboard, you can really match up to see which size board you should be on. If you look at this, you'll notice there is a lot of overlap with the weight ranges for different sizes. And this is because most people can ride a few different size boards. But if you go into your local snowboard shop, somebody in there can help you get dialed on the perfect size board for you. Moving on, the next very important spec that you'll see on this sheet is the waist width. And that is the width of the board in the middle section where your stance is set up. This is typically measured in centimeters or millimeters, and it is very important because you don't want to get a board that is too narrow. When you have a board that is too narrow, you will have toe hang or heel hang, and that will cause you to drag your toes when you're trying to carve. Now, looking at a rough range of these numbers, a 257 millimeter waist width, or 25.7 centimeters, is going to be good for about a 10, 10.5, and below size foot. Moving up to about 260 millimeters, a size 11 and below will fit good on that board. And then looking in the 265 area is a good enough size for a size 13 boot. Of course, it's not too big of an issue going with a wider board for your foot. A lot of these new volume shifted boards like the Orca and the War Pig are very wide in short sizes. With a very wide board, you can carve much higher up on your edge without any chance of your boot hitting the snow. The only issue with width that you want to worry about is going too narrow. Another spec concerning width is going to be the nose and tail width. And sometimes this will be a separate column for nose width and a separate column for tail width, or sometimes they'll be combined with a slash in the middle. What this tells you is how much taper is in the board, and this is something you kind of have to add up on your own sometimes. So if you have a nose width that is 300 millimeters and a tail width that is 292 millimeters, that means that you have 8 millimeters of taper. But if you see measurements for the nose and tail width that are the same, that means that there is no taper in the board. And basically what taper is a wider nose that tapers down to a narrower tail. This allows you to link turns more fluidly, transitioning from toe edge to heel edge or vice versa. And then in powder, it allows the narrower tail to sink a little bit, giving more float in the nose. Taper is something that we've been seeing a lot in more recent boards, and it makes boards so much fun to turn and ride. The next measurement you might see has something to do with stance, and different companies call it different things. Sometimes it's called setback, sometimes it just says stance, and usually this number has a minus in front of it. What this tells you is how far back the centered stance on the board is. Typically, you'll only see this in directional boards or directional twin boards. On twin boards, if it says stance or setback, you'll typically see a 0. This is not a measurement that should really dictate the difference between boards for you, but it allows you to see if the stance of the board is set back. So if you know you like your stance centered on the length of the board, you can bump it up a little bit based off that number. And then you'll see effective edge. This is a number that is measured in millimeters, and it is the length of contact edge that hits the snow when you're using your board. This is a number that's there for you to see, but typically when I look at a board, I am not checking out how long the effective edge is. I don't think it's a measurement that should decide between one board or another. And lastly, you'll see the side cut. Now, this is a measurement that is measured in meters. And what the side cut is the curvature of the edge of the snowboard. You may also see it called side cut radius because it means that the curvature of your board has been taken from a circle that is measured by its radius. But basically the side cut tells you how much the board carves. A smaller number for the side cut radius means there's more curvature and that board will want to carve more. Side cut can be a little tricky and in-depth to explain, and that's why I did an entire video explaining the whole thing that you can check out right up here. If you have any questions on any of these, leave them below, and myself or anybody else that sees them will answer them. Otherwise, thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.